5 a.m. on the frigid, rain-swept morning of Sunday, May 26, 2013, the tugboat Jackson 4 bobbed through the black waters off the coast of Nigeria, carrying out its mission to secure a massive several hundred-foot-long tanker ship packed to the brim with oil. The large ship was being thrown about by massive ocean swells, crushing waves, and a relentless rainstorm that had no end in sight. The small, ultra-powerful Jackson 4 had been called in to fix a line to her and keep her from capsizing, which would release thousands of gallons of oil into the ocean. Of course, it was just another morning in the life of 29-year-old Harrison O'Keene. The Nigerian-born ship cook aboard the Jackson 4, O'Keene went on missions like this all the time, knowing that dangerous situations on the high seas were all part of the job description. On the morning of May 26, not even Harrison knew what the day had in store. O'Keene had just woken up. Stabilizing himself along the bulkheads, he headed for his morning trip to the bathroom before getting ready to put on some breakfast for the other 11 crew members aboard the tug. Still in his underwear, the ship's cook entered the bathroom and shut the stall door. Just as O'Keene sat down, a massive wave smashed hard into the side of the Jackson 4, spraying sheets of water across the rain-hammered deck, cracking a piece of the boat's hull, and flipping the tug over on her side. Of all the places to be when your ship flips upside down and begins to capsize, sitting on the toilet at 5 in the morning has to be among the worst. Harrison was thrown so hard by the crushing power of the wave that he flew all the way out of the bathroom stall. He jumped to his feet, pulled up his pants, and rushed out of the men's room. There was already water on the floor as he entered the hallway into the bowels of the ship and instinctively began sprinting to the emergency hatch. The water level was quickly rising, and once at the hatch, he realized 3 crew members were having trouble opening it. "I did not have the patience to wait," O'Keene says. He turned away from the exit and swam back down the hallway. As he swam away from the closed exit, force of the water swept him into another toilet. This one attached to the second engineer's cabin. The door shut behind him as he was swept in, and the water level rose. But the bathroom did not completely fill. He then felt the ship sinking, for minutes, until it hit the bottom of the ocean floor. Keeping his head in a small pocket of air below the ceiling, which was in reality the floor, O'Keene thought he had very little time to save himself. At this point, O'Keene still regarded the exit hatch as his best route to freedom. When he opened the door and entered the second engineer's cabin, he saw 2 life jackets, each with a torch. He put one torch in his mouth and the other in his boxers, and swam back to the watertight exit hatch to try to escape. Outside the second engineer's cabin, corridors were full of water, there was no air pocket, and he did not have enough breath to work away at the exit door for long. Again and again, over the following minutes and hours, he returned, swimming between the safety of his air pocket and the watertight door. Realizing there was little hope to open the door, he then focused on practicalities. Searching through bags, he found a tin of sardines, a can of cola, and some loose coveralls. The water was so cold, he focused next on that. Ripping the wooden panels from the ceiling, he tied them together into a little wrap, which allowed him to sit in his tiny air pocket and figure his way out of the wreck. On the surface, Nigerian rescue crews received the mayday from the Jackson 4, but with the storm raging and the rapidity in which the vessel plummeted to the sea, there was no chance on mounting a timely rescue operation. Even once the weather cleared later that day, there was still the noticeable problem that the ship was upside down, which is a major set of hazards for anyone brave enough to attempt to swim inside the vessel. It's simply too dangerous, even for rescue swimmers, they thought. Harrison stayed down there for 60 hours, pruning up like a raisin. Somehow he kept his wits about him and refused to give up. As he laid there on his makeshift raft, the only sounds that reached his ears were his own breathing, slowly taking away his last oxygen. He then stayed there for the next 3 days. Back on the surface, a team of South African rescue divers were brought in to check out the wreckage and salvage what they could. Swimming through the depths in full gear, the divers quickly found the bodies of 10 crew members and were confident enough to head deeper into the ship to investigate. When Harrison heard a metallic tapping coming from somewhere in the ship, he nearly fainted. Knowing he was working on the last of his oxygen, dove down into the inky black waters and ripped the faucet from the sink. Pulling himself back up, he began to slam the faucet against the ceiling as hard as he could, trying to call the divers his way before they abandoned him to his fate once again. Quietly hoping that by entering the ship, the divers didn't upset whatever delicate physics thing was going on here, flood his cabin with water, and trap him 100 feet underwater without any air. Minutes later, he saw a flashlight head down his hallway, and he frantically signaled to them as he felt his first wave of relief in days. The rescue divers had to head back up to get more equipment, but at 7:30 p.m. on May 28th, 62 hours after his boat flipped, Harrison O'Keene was equipped with a rebreather and oxygen tank. He then used his last strength of energy to swim out of the wreckage. Unfortunately, the rescue wasn't complete yet. Harrison had been down there so long and had sucked up so much nitrogen into his lungs that bringing him straight to the surface would have killed him. Instead, he needed to spend the next 60 hours in a decompression chamber. Having gone through a claustrophobic person's worst nightmare, Harrison was finally released from the chamber and was cleared to go home. His 62-hour ordeal, trapped in his underwear in a bathroom 100 feet below the ocean surface, is believed to be the longest any human has ever survived after being trapped underwater. 10 years later, Harrison is now 39 and works as a diver, installing, constructing, and making repairs to oil and gas facilities. He has a wife, 3 children, and a house by a lake, but it's not quite where he wants to be. Further saying, "If I had the money, I'd buy a house right by the ocean."